How are you today?
I am just ducky.
You're a duck?
Quack quack.
I just gotta. I got YouTube open. I want to make sure Restream connects because sometimes it doesn't, but it did, so we're good. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome. If you are a Patreon and you want to come hang out, there is join links in the Patreon Discord and on Patreon itself, so you can come and hang out if you want. That's totally up to
Absolutely.
you. You can do whatever you want. We're in Discord and on YouTube, so we're seeing it all right now.
Hello, Ben. Hello, Pierre.
I got a slow list.
It it's it comes up slowly.
It does.
You'll get there.
Yeah. So we do have a few things that are going on and that we have done and stuff that's coming. But before we get going, since this is a Patreon stream,
It is.
we should probably um, thank our wonderful Patreon. So
I
here's the see my face is gone now.
yeah, I
Um,
see it. I
oh
see it.
no, much better actually. Maybe
But
we should.
what we should do is whoops.
No,
Go like
wrong,
that. Go like
wrong,
oh hey,
still
I'm work.
wrong.
Just hold on. I'm
Still
working on it.
here.
Well,
Let me there. I did it.
that's what I was trying to do.
Oh, okay. Anyway, thank you guys for all your support, and we definitely appreciate you. We do have a Raymond did join, so we can add a Raymond in here. One sec. There he is. Good morning, Raymond.
Good morning.
For some reason, Greg wants to be really big.
I don't want
Cool.
to be really big. I don't know
I think your
why
mic
it's
might be a little quiet there, right?
Could be. Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely a little quiet.
Good to see you, Ray. We got all the goodies on Friday, so we will start getting that stuff set up. By all the goodies, our work is now on par with David on 3D printing.
Yeah.
With we just got resin printing at work, so we copied David.
Yeah.
Following Raymond.
Yeah. Well, how many? I don't know how many weeks ago that was, but I said it was probably the last time we were like this, and I said I don't have a resin. And then Raymond said like, "You will, you will."
Exactly.
Um, let's see. I'm gonna turn you up a bit, Ray. I think that may help.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what's going on my side. So
oh, that's a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, we can hear now. Again, if you guys want to join in, the link is in
Patreon.
uh, Patreon and Discord there.
Yep.
So there's a few things that I wanted to mention just to take care of some stuff, but we've been talking about doing a build off contest, and that is a thing. We'll probably end it just after the New Year's to get people time to design what they want to or get stuff in. So the idea is you're going to design some sort of tchotchke decorative holiday thing. Those are a lot of words. And Raymond's already done. He finished.
actually, it's more my wife did it, but yeah.
Oh, okay. But so that's the idea. We're gonna hold a build off, a print off, if you will. Points if you print it and send in pictures of the print once it's finished, and not just like the render from
And
whatever
it
CAD you
can't be
used.
from Thingiverse. You must make it yourself.
And be fully aware that we do know how to use Google Lens to catch cheaters. See, Ben's done too. He says.
All right, okay.
And
Well,
we are
we'll
working with some stuff for the prizes right now, so there is going to be like winners of this contest. Spoiler alert: it won't be Greg or I.
no.
Sorry.
I
We,
mean,
I will make something, but I will not be allowed to enter the contest.
And if Ray wins, we'll have to get him like something other than what the prize is, because you know. But yeah, so that's coming. We'll have a hard end date, but I think just after the New Year's, so somewhere in that first week
But
of.
wouldn't we want it done just before the New Year's?
Well, I was
Because then
thinking like
people could
January
utilize them
1st.
for Christmas or
Well, it's a
whatever.
holiday tchotchke.
Well, yeah. There's
So like,
holidays.
I don't know
So
who's out
all
here.
the
How many
all the
people we
way
got
to
here right now?
Ukrainian New Year.
That's true. So we got a few people that. So like, why don't we ask everybody?
All right.
Why don't we say, would you guys prefer to have it done before what the North Americans celebrate as Christmas, or after? What do you think, Ray? What's your thoughts?
well, I did mine before because my wife and I we sell these for Christmas.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'd probably say a bit before Christmas.
yeah. So why
Like the
don't we set?
20th
Let,
to the 22nd,
Yeah,
somewhere
I
around
yeah,
like
there.
that
like
idea.
yeah, the 22nd. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that
think we're
sounds
gonna
good.
have a. Let's look at the date.
Because that gives us over a
So
month.
what if we do? Okay, let's say the 19th because that's a live stream day.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
we can
Perfect.
do the announcements that day, and we'll make that kind of like our Patreon hangout one too.
All right. And
Okay.
so we'll post on our public side of our Patreon and probably our website, both places.
Yep.
Kind of the general guideline
Yep.
and whatnot, and then we'll go from there.
The other thing too is obviously you can finish early. Who cares, right? But again, if we can get pictures of the print, or if you don't want to take pictures of the print and you want it printed, you can send it and just say, "Hey, can you print this for me?"
You
And we'll
can
print them.
share the STL if you are willing with us,
Yeah.
and we can print them and show them on air too.
Yep. And
So
then
if you've got that STL, we will put all the details on how to get it to us.
yep.
A link. It's most likely you'll send it to info at 3dmake it.
Or contest or
.ca.
something. We'll see.
Yeah,
We have ways to cheat the system.
info's good enough.
Oh wow, Ray's picture cleared up. Now you don't look like you have Vaseline on your camera. You're not
No.
Captain Kirk anymore.
It looks clear for me the whole time. That's weird.
It must just be the way it renders in like the web browser or whatever.
Maybe.
So, but yeah, so contest. Let's say contest date closes December 19th. Actually, it'll be the 18th, so we can announce it the 19th for the
Yes.
winners and stuff. And then again, as you finish, if you want them printed, it would be really neat. Maybe we will post a shared My Mini Factory space, maybe. Yeah, that's a good idea. My Mini Factory space, because they never lose your password, ever. Oh, on that vein, if you were involved in Thingiverse, it's not your Thingiverse password you have to change. It's the 19 other websites that you use the same password on that you have to change.
And Pierre, we will be posting all of the info probably either later today or early this week. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll post it to Patreon on our public side of Patreon, not the private side.
Yeah, so
And
it'll be
also
public.
we'll also put it on our website,
Mm-hmm.
3dmakeit.ca. So we'll put it right where everyone can find the info. And yeah, so you'll and then we'll throw it in the show notes of the live stream too, so links to where you find the info,
Yep.
so that everyone has all the info. So.
Yep. And I think in the spirit of designing and the design off too, like if you already have something done, that's really good, but maybe do another one, just because it's
As,
like you finished the test already.
I think as long as you've made it yourself,
Yeah.
it qualifies.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. So I did want to mention that. It's even in it's in the title of the stream. Contest warning. So, there's been some stuff that's happened recently in the world of like new printers finally, but I'm not gonna say they're new printers, right? Have you seen the new Ender 3 Ray?
I have
It's what do they call it? The S1, I think, is the actual name
the
of it.
S1. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't
not
think
like
we
if
know.
you,
Direct drive.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we know pricing of it yet, though.
Well, like
No, not yet.
the one fake Creality website that's not really Creality. You know that Creality official 3D. It's not
Yeah.
Creality. They say it's around 350. Um, it's an interesting thing because whenever an Ender comes out, I always wonder if they're replacing the old one in the market
They
space or
never
if they're
replace
just
the old
adding
ones.
to the family. Well, they did.
I'm not sure if you can actually. You might still be able to get the original Ender 3 still set from some places. So
You can from Amazon. I'll have it.
Yeah. But like, I don't think retailers once the new one comes out, and you maybe Ray, you can correct me if this is a silly statement, but once the new one comes out, it's really just buy the new one for sale, really.
That's usually what we do because there's usually only a couple of dollars difference in price.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and this one actually, like, so when you look at the S1, it looks like an Ender. Spoiler alert, still looks like an Ender. However, it does have that
couple
fake,
key, couple key features.
yeah. So that has a direct drive, which we mentioned. Uh, it also has like the um, what are they calling it? The CR Touch.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
basically their version of a BL Touch, and hopefully they got license or something for it. There's not going to be
Yeah, I'm
controversy.
not sure about that. It's got the metal probe as well. So it's
Yeah,
almost
so
like they step back.
It
I hope
is, right?
hopefully it's not like the 3D Touch because they were horrible.
Dominic asked, can it be like something from like Yog, uh, Sothos? I think that's how you say it. It doesn't matter. The whatever
It's
holiday you want, that's great. Could be
yeah.
Thanksgiving if you wanted Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it could be anything. Like it's gonna be a Chotsky, so just a small thing that you could gift to
Yeah,
someone, you could display somewhere,
it's like a
or
gnome on a
hang
shelf.
or hang somewhere, something that you have created. Yeah,
It could be
you
a
know,
sign that
it,
says
I mean,
video monitoring on
yeah,
property. I mean, oh yeah,
yeah.
there it is. Yeah.
Don't give away hints, because then now someone's gonna try to steal it.
Every somebody just screenshotted that. Okay, now I can build this in CAD. I'll just trace it. Yeah. So, like Ray said, the CR Touch is metal, and the original BL Touches that had the metal pin, they weren't
They weren't
very
great.
accurate. It's, and then what's that fake one called?
The 3D Touch.
Yeah, that one still uses a metal pin, and you're lucky if it can hold the pin up while it's printing.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be uh, an issue. Maybe I haven't used a CR Touch. Like, have you, Ray? Have you had a chance to try one out?
No, we haven't seen them yet.
No. So it's still a new thing, so I can't say how well it works. But I think I would prefer buying a BL Touch still if I'm looking at that kind of um, product, the ABL stuff. Yeah. So yeah, Ben says it's not as accurate either. The
Hello?
Are you there, Greg?
I'm trying to. Oh, my mic died. So
Oh, there's a shocker.
yeah, crazy. I gotta get a better mic. It's on the list.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that the 3D Touch came with plastic pins as well. Depending on the newer version,
That's
they
true.
really tried to clone the BL Touch, but
Yeah.
don't buy the clone. It sucks.
What do you think about the possibility of using the new Raspberry Pi 2W for Octoprint? So, Dom, I used the original Raspberry Pi Zero for
Which
Octoprint.
wasn't recommended.
No, it worked fine.
But the 2W, the nice thing is it's the same chip that was on the 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it will actually run Octoprint properly. I believe it even has 512K RAM.
Yeah.
So
Helge is here.
it should run really well. So it's totally
Hello.
doable. Hey,
Morning,
Helge,
Helge.
how are you?
Hey,
I'm good.
I just noticed you here. I'm sorry if I left you in the lobby, chilling too long there.
Oh, I just logged on, so no
Okay.
problem.
Perfect.
Um, yeah. But I mean, you
So,
could do whatever you want with a Pi Zero, except maybe watch like Cody.
Well, the new Pi Zero, like it's actually the nice thing is footprint's really small. That's one of the things that limits it is the interfaces on it. Whereas the Pi 3 had more full size USB connectors,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it had a full size Ethernet connector. So as long as you're going Wi-Fi, you're fine. And then I guess you could use a hub with it. Like that's what we had to do with the other one. So if you're
Yep.
not using a camera, it'll probably work fine. But you need a hub if you wanted to use a camera and a printer together, which it should have enough bandwidth to handle both of those now.
Yes, you won't get as much frame rate drops. Um, are Helge, Ray, are you guys using Octoprint at all? Or are you an SD card person?
I use
SD card.
Octoprint.
Hmm.
So,
Um,
uh, Octoprint has always worked fine for me, and
mhm.
so
I
on
find.
the
Mhm.
Pi I have 3 and 4, so and
Oh,
one number 2, I think something. Yeah,
yeah. So you gotta. You're set up. You're like me. You buy a new one when you get a new printer.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
can't help myself, anyways.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with like the SD card in the front, like because the Ray, you say you do mostly that, don't you? Or do you use
I do.
Octo?
I have 3 SD cards per
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only limitation with the SD cards is the write limit. So if you're using Octoprint, it keeps the writes down on those SD cards that are running in the Pi. Especially if you don't have so like as we all know, there's that power loss feature in Marlin and other firmwares, and if you don't have that on and you're running it from a Pi, your SD cards will last like 100 times longer.
One of the things Dominic just said that it has a camera connection, and that's true. All Pis have the camera connection, so you can use a Pi camera if you wanted, and then you're not wouldn't need a hub. So
Hmm.
so that's
Oh, hey, there you
there you
go.
go, right? And you
A
I
can
Pi
made,
get
camera stand.
and you can
yeah,
get like
I made it.
Hey, it looks good.
Hill shows there. Yeah, there's he's got the long ribbon cable because
Hmm.
that's the other handy thing is if you get the long cables, you can really put it. I think they come in up to 2 meters
They
if
do,
you
yeah.
want. So with these ribbon cables, so you can do
Uh,
whatever you want. So which is
I
quite
bought a
nice.
few cables also, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got some
Yeah.
you
backups
know.
there.
Well, they're not expensive those cables, and they work with the screen as well. So they're the same cable for the screen. So if you have
Yep.
a Pi screen, I've got a Pi back there with the screen, and I don't like where the screen is mounted. So I actually bought a large cable to go from the Pi to the screen. So, oh, wireless screen or the Wi-Fi connector for the
Yeah.
yeah
So you
Got
know,
all the toys.
got all the toys. So I can't help myself, as I say.
yeah
No, I
exactly
completely understand
yeah
that.
yeah
The big selling feature, I think, too, using the Raspberry Pi Zero, was the fact that it's small enough and light enough. Like you could print a frame like Helge has there, and just mount the whole thing inside of it with that short camera connector.
yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
I I bet you it's pin compatible because remember the original Prusa had a you could put the
mm,
Pi Zero directly on it.
yeah, as a
Well,
hat.
I think you could still do that, but now if you put the Pi 2 directly on it, it now has functionality that it would actually work, whereas it
Yeah,
never worked because it was underpowered. Like, well, it worked, but not very well.
yeah, it looks
So
like the same GPIO bus.
yeah,
So why
yeah,
not, right?
yeah. So that's pretty cool.
They even have it like plugged into their like um they have it plugged into their stuff for the keyboard and things.
So there was one more thing on our list, David. Not just the Ender 3 VSI or whatever it is called,
Oh
but
yes.
there was one more which you have been kind of lusting for years.
Well, like they took it away right when I started buying printers, but the Ender So the Ender 2 is back in a Pro variety, and I've always wanted like that kind of form factor of a printer. Morning, Tyler.
Hey, Tyler.
And I don't know if any retailers will ever get it, but like the initial cost, because you can go to the real Creality website, not the official Creality website, but the real Creality website, and they're listed for about 169 American, I do believe, which puts them at a cheaper price point. And if you don't know what they look like, picture the Prusa Mini kind of size
Yeah.
ish, and then it, instead of having linear guides, it has 2020 for the gantry. But
It'd be pretty easy to make your own too.
oh yeah, there's not much to them. But when FDM 3D printers first started happening, Cetus also did this. Lots of manufacturers had like that low, you know.
Did Mingda have one of these too?
I can't remember. I don't
I
know.
don't remember, but there was a number of companies that had Cetus was for sure one of them.
Yeah.
There was a number of them that had the single arm extruder.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I mean
Or
Mingda,
gantry.
or not Mingda, but as soon as that i3 frame kind of came out, everybody was like, "Oh, let's just use that instead."
Well, I think it depended on the quality that you're doing. Keeping a gantry with two wheels on it, parallel, I
Yeah.
think they felt was a little bit easier than having a long arm that could could bend. So I think if you have your higher tolerances, a single arm doesn't matter.
No.
Um,
Well, and the size too, right? Like those single arm printers were never ever wider than 200, right? So
Yeah.
the arms never actually got to the point where the gantry would weigh down, and
I
all of
think
them are
that
Bowden.
the beds were probably even smaller than that. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, like 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Well, 150, 180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were, again, like that size. But again, when you think about what we print, like I see a print on Raisman's printer behind them there.
I think those are markers.
Or is they markers? Oh yeah, they're
Yeah, no,
markers.
yeah. That's
Oh,
for the
okay, there you
whiteboard
go.
above it.
But like 90% of what we print is like far smaller than even an Ender 3
Small thing.
printer, right? That being said, there's nothing wrong with having like the
Printing big is
C3PO
fun
model.
too.
Yeah. hmm
It just
yeah.
takes longer.
That's the downside right there. But yeah, so the Ender 3V or Ender 2 Pro is coming out as well. Again, they talk about shipping right away, but it's well, we all know how that works. It's I think is about 90-day lead time now, if you're lucky.
At least.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
know we're not getting any new printers before Christmas.
that's what you were saying. That's crazy. Sorry for buying them all. I mean,
Oh no, we still have some. We're good.
It'll probably get slim pickings by Christmas time.
They will for sure.
Background noise. Dominic saying background noises is a little bit distracting.
oh,
So
we can fix that. I don't know who it is, but
Oh, probably me.
oh, well, we'll hit mute, and then when you look panicked and start talking, we'll unmute you. There. So the I did a thing. Was it last week before? We were up visiting actually Raymond, and I bought a couple things. And Greg bought a couple things, but I bought a resin printer that's lived in like 5 different rooms in my house now. The first time I had it set up by the furnace, which was a terrible idea. Because
it spread the fumes throughout his house.
yeah, and then I moved it to another room, which wasn't good either. And then I bought like a ventilation fan that can move all the air out of the room, which works well. But then I think yesterday I got mad enough to go look at my furnace again
We
in
looked
the
at it last year, but we didn't notice what was wrong. Well, we
yeah.
knew what was wrong, but we didn't notice what broke.
And so I fixed it, which is really good. And now it's out in the garage. So after 3 trips, it's out in the garage. What do you got there, Helge?
Well, I got some stepper motors.
Oh yeah.
It's about $20. They came in the mail a couple of days ago.
Wow.
Uh, they are branded as well, so it's the real deal anyway.
That's crazy. Where and you said about $20 for a set of 5?
Yeah, shipping and all
What you
included. So I went
what
like,
what
what?
you what you building?
I don't know.
Haven't
He's keeping
figured it
his
out yet.
options open.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
they were so cheap, so I just had to, you always need steppers for something. Anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so now like I've got that, and I have actually had the opportunity to use it, but for my all the prints for the resin managed to make their way to my wife's work, so she could show them all
Well,
off.
one came to the office.
That's true. One did. I broke the tail off of one because I was impatient, shall we say? So I brought one.
I got a little toy too when we were up in Calgary. So this is
Oh
Sola,
yeah.
the 3D Sola, and so it's very similar. If everyone saw Stefan's video of and you probably will never be able to see it on camera, but there are
No. Well, yeah. There.
oh, 2 holes.
Two
two
holes.
holes.
Yep.
So it's a .4 nozzle. It's the original. So um, they Bondtech licensed from this company the technology, so they made a 3 version of this. But it's only .6 because you can only fit. There's not enough metal to drill 3 to make .4. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. But not only that, I got the Bondtech direct large gear extruder heatsink, so I can now have it. It's much more compact, and it'll be on my Bondtech direct drive, and I'll mount that up. And I think I'm gonna David and I, and it's got an actual Slice Engineering hot end. Look at that, so you can see that almost. Anyway, that will be going on the CR10 in the near future. So, yeah. So that was the other thing I got, and you got the curing station as well, David, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Raymond doesn't let anybody leave, he says, without buying the curing station. So I have one of those, and I did buy. Okay, now what are those LEDs?
No, it's I bought some the belts for it should be black, but it arrived white.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
it's a
it's a
Gates
Gates
belt.
belt kind of thing.
Yeah, it's for the the x-axis, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But
White.
they are white,
Hmm.
so I think that would crash with the scenic on my printers.
You'll have to just you have to do one up so it looks like one of those old fashioned white walled tire kind of motif.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly what I thought too.
I did buy an ultrasonic cleaner, Ray, to go with everything
Okay.
now. Yeah,
Did it come in yet?
it did. Yeah, it's big enough to fit the entire print volume if you were to fill it, but I thought it was a good idea because the wash and cure station does a good job, but the ultrasonic cleaner finishes it off quite well. And then
Take the supports off nicely.
yeah, actually, so I went with the washing machine idea inside that wash and cure. So if you guys don't know, the wash and cure for resin has a vat with the fan or some impeller that spins it, and the water or whatever solution inside just turns kind of like a whirlpool, and it goes. So I threw like 6 prints in there, and then by the time it was done, all the supports were off.
It's kind of like like the ones that you find in the laboratory with the
Mhm.
Exactly.
magnets thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So after they all bounced against each other, I let it go for like 90 minutes too. I'm like, let's see what happens.
I don't think you
It was
need to
making
go
sense.
that. What? But basically, you went and had some supper and came back.
Yeah. The one thing I've noticed, and I don't know, like the monocure rapid resin, it seems to take a while to cure. Like once, not in the printer, but when you're curing it, like in the wash and cure, it
And
takes
it
about an
usually takes
hour.
about a third more time.
Hmm. Okay.
So if you're, I usually cure my stuff at about 7 to 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So I usually about 10 minutes with the monocular stuff.
Okay. Because like I left, well, like maybe I didn't watch the first few, but like yeah, they were longer curing, but um, and then I did get a bottle of the Anycubic stuff from Amazon, and it actually has like almost no odor, but it's like a plant based, so that'll be exciting. And I do plan on doing a whole thing on the whole process of being new to resin and the gotchas and what to do. I do want to talk about one thing, and it's very prevalent for almost all of us right now that want to get into resin printing. Now, Creality and Anycubic and FlashForge have figured it out already, but in the summer, G2 Box, the firmware, decided that at 1.9 it would lock their printer firmware and screen software so that you can only use G2 Slicer to actually work with stuff. And I don't know if I don't see any resin printers back on Helge's shelf there, so I don't know if you run them yet or even have a desire to. Um, but G2 Box is okay. It actually slices pretty good, but they have two tiers of software now. A free one, which is actually very similar to what they have been using, and it's adequate. Then the pro one, which is hold your chairs for a second, make sure you don't fall off. $160 a year. So they went from free to $160 a year,
And some of the printers are only 160 to
Yeah.
$200. So
right?
that's a lot of money for a hobby when you weren't expecting to pay an
Yeah.
extra 160 bucks.
Like legitimately it's cheaper for you in many cases if that like so just so you know, there's options, one called lychee slicer out there that is more like a Kira of slicing for resin printers, and it does a fine job as well. But this locking, so like for example the Creality, what did I buy, Ray? LD00H2
002H.
or something.
2.8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2H. That one is a Chi2 box printer, and it comes with 1.6 on it. So at the moment, it's not locked, and I don't plan on upgrading it. So I can use the other slicing environments with it. Not that, again, I didn't find anything wrong with the actual Chi2 box 1.9 slicer, but what I do find wrong is how they went about this. So like brands like Elegoo and that other one, Peopoli. Yeah, I think that's them. And there's a few
different
other
ones.
ones that were using this Chi2 slicer, right? And an Elegoo printer at Boxing Day, it, like Greg said, it costs you 150 bucks, 200 bucks. So it's cheaper to throw the printer away that you have, and then go in. Now, there are companies, and Ben brought it up, and I was listening to them before, that have a different model. And so companies that actually own printers, such as Prusa, right? And then lots of the Creality, right? The new one, the Hallett,
Yeah.
right? Like
The
they,
Hallett in the sky. Yeah.
yeah, they took time to make their own slicers for these products. Hallett and Sky can use
Or
lychee
at
as
least
well.
rebrand someone else's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Prusa does it too, right? But you can see where, for me, if Prusa Slicer came out and said, oh, sorry, you got to charge 150, or we're charging you 150 bucks for the slicer, that wouldn't make any sense because Prusa Slicer already comes with attached kind of with your printer, which you've paid a premium price for. right?
And
Like an
I understand.
SL1 speed is not $150.
And I do understand why G2 wants to make more money because subscriptions
Hmm.
makes a regular cash flow and development, and I understand that. But when you when you have a full featured slicer for free, and there's not maybe there's only a handful of features to go up to the pro that make it really worthwhile.
Yep.
It's kind of really kind of bad marketing thing to have a community that is open source and
And
really
then,
trying to embrace this stuff and then
yeah, oops,
slam
we're
the
gonna
door
charge.
shut on them.
And
It's
and
not
Yeah.
very nice.
we all know of companies, specifically one company, that all they sell is a slicer and that's it. They don't have printers. They don't do firmware. They sell a slicer, and they have. So let's use the name Simplified 3D. They haven't been relevant for 6 years now, right? Like Kira and Prusa Slicer are far, far beyond anything that like Simplify 3D could offer right now, and that's completely their fault. And G2 Box is kind of drifting that same way. They don't have a product, right? They have a
Well, they
firmware
have
and
board
slicer.
that
Yeah,
they have boards,
but
firmware, and slicer, and that's the bad thing is if all of a sudden you have to update the firmware, like you can't just stick with the firmware you have. That could be problematic, right? Because then you're locked into the G2 Pro, which wouldn't be great.
I mean,
So if you
yeah.
can stick with the firmware that you have,
Mhm.
great. But if there's some killer feature that you have to have that they kind of got you under the barrel,
They
which is
do.
not a great
And I mean, right now,
position to be
thankfully,
in.
they still have the free one. Like they haven't got rid of the free tier, and I don't think they would just because of the pushback that they got from companies like Elegoo saying like, "What the heck? You
Yeah.
can't just flip the switch like that." Now, when you guys, if you know what Lychee is and go to their website, they've done it the correct way. Lychee is their free sizer, and if you wanted to use it as an OEM slicer for your platform, they have Mango, and then you can buy the different one and then charge licensing. And so,
And they also have specified specific features that are in the
mhm,
pro that just aren't available in the
yep,
base one,
yep,
so that you know different types of supports that come off easier
yep,
and stuff like that that they've specifically designed in the pro, so that you still have all the features of the other one, but there might be something more attractive there, and
yeah,
that's the way to do it. Is like, okay, not just kind of
not not
screw
pull the
people
cord.
over, shall we say?
Dominic posed this position. He says, "I think Prusa resin printer can use any resin slicer, if I'm not mistaken." No.
I don't know if that's true,
So
but I don't have one, so I can't say
yeah,
for sure.
it's kind of true and it's kind of not. You can use any slicer you want, well, kind of with a resin printer, but a lot of them. How many of us remember Dremel? When you
Yeah.
sliced Dremel print files, right? You had that custom file name. I forget
And
what it is now.
it basically parsed the G code and added custom
Yeah,
G code commands and custom, like to make it proprietary to their firmware,
yeah.
and that's basically what this Chitu has done.
Well, not
Also,
just G2, all of them.
well,
Lots of the
all of them,
ones that
yeah,
use, but that's where a product like Lychee stepped in and said, okay, well, we all know like Chicho uses CTB files, Prusa uses that .prusa extension. So they took the time and parsed it. So if you have the right printer profile, it will spit out the right file. And again, like you look at that company doing that for a firmware like Chitu, and you're thinking, I mean, it would be the same thing as you buying a Windows computer, getting it all home and set up, and then all of a sudden a pop-up start popped up when you turned it on and said you have to buy a $300 license.
yeah,
Nobody would do that anymore, right?
yeah.
They tried that. It was
They
called
did.
Windows XP.
This is not how
Yeah.
Oh, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always a new computer and you set it up, and there's always a pop up. If you want this, you need to buy that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well,
it.
yeah, it's all the extra licensing
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that they throw on there that they want you. That's
Yeah.
how they subsidize to get you the computer
Yep.
cheap. Is they put all the other
Yeah.
crapware on there.
But
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Just like the printers, they have done this ink scam. You know,
mm-hmm.
small mini cartridges
To start
inside when you
with,
buy
and
it. Yeah.
yeah.
And they go empty after two or three papers and run through.
Yeah,
And then you go to the store, and one cartridge cost about three times what the printer costs. So
Yeah. You
right,
just keep throwing the
exactly.
printer out, buy a new
yeah,
one. Um. So just to, I think,
Stig, that's the reason why I use Linux.
right.
Right?
And
Yeah, yeah, I
ironically, Stig,
understand.
the so that new one, the Creality Hallet, does use Linux. Creality wrote their own Linux firmware and popped it onto a printer, and it's actually pretty good. Now, there's nothing wrong with the one that I bought either. Like I said, I can still slice for it regardless, and Chitu Box is a capable slicer, but it's no Prusa slicer. Like when like the UI, like you can't even snap Chitu Box. So like you know how you can grab a window in Windows or Linux and move it to the side and it goes punk, and you can't do that. Cheeto Box loses its mind. Sometimes it disappears altogether and you can't bring it back. So they like if you're going, and this is the pro version. I'm not talking just the free version. So they don't even have a piece of software that 100% just even works opening. So how can you charge for that yet? And that's I don't think the answer is they shouldn't be. Right? Like
I,
that's
I,
half built.
I think this is going to be maybe a good topic for a video. Is talking about how the firmwares and the slicers and the
Mhm.
formats for output work on, because everyone here or that watches this understands how the G code can vary for output depending on the printer you have slightly. Like
Yep.
for the most part, your major boards are standard Marlin or whatever type G code, but
Mhm.
they're different flavors of firmware
Yep.
sometimes have tweaked it a little bit. So it'd be good to understand, you know, what the variations are and what they look like and why they're different on a
Yep.
SLA printer
And I think
type thing.
like that's a really interesting point. And could you imagine? And I 100% think they should. But could you imagine Marlin flipping a switch and saying, you know what? There's a $5 licensing fee or something, because they do all this work for like we are an incredibly entitled 3D printing community. We really are,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, I'm gonna use this printer, and if I can't run rep firmware on it for free, what's wrong with the world? Or I want to print a model, and the guy's charging $5 for the model. Rabble, right?
Yeah.
We're very very entitled as a community, and I think that there is a place for a paid version. But if you look at so just going back to the G2 and Lychee charges 32 euros a year for their software.
That's pretty reasonable.
That's reasonable. I mean, it's a subscription, and I hate that model. I'd rather buy a lifetime license than like worry about. But 32 euros versus 160, it's like one of them just doesn't seem right. Ben, you have a longer 10 orange. Yeah, uh, that's the problem I ran into is like where do I put it, and I fixed that problem thankfully now. But
Yeah.
the resin printing, every reason I thought I would hate it, I hate it. And every reason I thought I would love it, it's amazing, right? Like, and it's one of the oldest forms of actual consumer 3D printing, and it's actually one of the easiest ways to get started. But just put a pin in that. The mess. You have to be
Yeah,
careful with resin, right? And I think Ray, you have like a setup, don't you? Like for transferring the resin to the wash and stuff like that.
I do. Yeah, little bins and all sorts of different things.
Yeah, and you got to get a system like that that works. And then the other thing is it's not instant. Once that model's done on that build plate, it goes into the process. So you're gonna add another, what, maybe 30 minutes of post process at the most. Like, you gotta pop it off, you gotta wash it, and then you gotta make sure it's really washed. And then once you've washed it and look at it, you gotta wash it again, and then you can pop it in the cure station for like 8-10 minutes, depending on what it is, right? So it's not like FDM when you look through your Octoprint camera and go, "Ooh, it's finished," and you go and oh, I can pick it up and it's gone.
Yeah, but there's the detail. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people buy it for specific reasons. So as long
Yep.
as you understand about those extra
Mm-hmm.
length, the extra length of the process. I mean, you're not buying it to print a Mandalorian helmet.
Although if you're Uncle Jesse, you do.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
most people aren't going to buy it to print that because the volumes are fairly small,
Well,
right? Right
unless
for
you
it,
go up into the 3000
right.
Piopolite,
You'd have to
Moai,
get a
or
really big one,
or
but
that
then it's
Flash
cost
Forge.
prohibitive, and you get out of the
Blackboard
hobbyness.
covering, yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want detailed models
Mm-hmm.
and small miniature detailed models,
Too
and
much post processing.
it's really, really, really good for that. I would say
It's
for most
fantastic,
people,
and
right?
like I don't regret owning one. I'm actually quite enjoying it. So thank you, Ray. You were right. I was gonna buy one, um, but it is a bit of work after. I mean, you got to wear gloves, um, because resin is very dangerous. If you don't have eye protection, you probably should have that on too. There's just it can cause autoimmune issues. There's a laundry list of things. But that being said, there's research coming out on PLA particulates too, on how that can actually cause long-lasting damage to your lungs. And like, how many of us right now are sitting right beside their printers? And right, all of us. How many people have printed ABS before we figured out the styrene from ABS was probably, yeah, right, should go outside? I think we all have. So like it's one of those ongoing learning things about it. But resin in itself is an amazing medium to work with on a printer, and
Pierre
simple.
has a question. What's the difference with resin printers? Basically, the process for printing is quite a bit different because it does layer by layer, but it's exposed with UV, so it instantly hardens, right? And you're not printing molten material,
Hmm.
but because it's a layered process, you get super fine detail, especially with some of the new 4 and 8K screens that are
Hmm.
built onto these things. You get very fine detail. So if
Yeah.
you're trying to print like a big orc with a sword and whatnot in D&D, you're gonna if you compared the two on FDM versus a resin, the the resin's going to be like perfect, almost like the detail wise. You could pick up his pupils, right, on a tiny print like this big, right?
Yeah.
You could see the pupil detail, whereas you're not, even with a point 0.1 nozzle, and printing super slow, you're not going to get that detail.
No.
So it's if you want really high detailed prints on a small scale, or really high detailed medium scale prints, it's excellent for that type of thing. Dentists use this, right? They make actual dentures, or you've seen the Invisalign braces and whatnot.
Yeah.
They utilize this technology in that when you go to the dentist, right, and you get the new fillings, they use a UV light to cure it instantly in your mouth. It's the same technology, so it's a different type of printing technology is what it is.
The biggest difference really too is instead of an extruded filament, the actual printing starts from resin in a vat with a build plate moving down and up into it. So
Yeah.
that's why odor can be an issue, which I discovered. And
I
and other than the like, I think if you can keep the odors down, and like I said, I've got a ventilation fan now that was in the room that was in the house, and that's not an issue. It can evacuate the room in about 5 minutes of all
So
the fumes.
I think what we're seeing here, David, is you need to do an intro on the basics and intro on how to resin print and what the process looks like.
Yeah, and we can do that. I mean, that's easy. It's just, um, Ben, I hope you quit, Dominic. Well, he said maybe it looks like he quit. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, no, it's a what's the right words? It's a very long topic, and like again, it's just one of those things that's an interesting thing. Like, is there anybody watching right now that is kind of like curious about how to get into resin printing? I don't know. What if I told you could get into it for like 150 bucks? Right? That's the allure of it.
No, it's closer to two something.
Well, like it depends, right? Because there's that Alpha Wise, that's 180 right now, and it goes on sale. Like
Yeah,
they are out there.
it,
Elegoo,
you just gotta look around because the prices vary. You can go all the way from 150 all the way up to like 2,000.
right?
So,
So,
look at it. Look at our the FDM. Same thing. Like
mhm,
there's low end to high end. So
yep,
there's a wide variety out there, and they're improving all the time.
they really are. I'm gonna bring this up because I always forget to. Raymond always remembers, so I'll say it this time. Remember, like and subscribe. I
Yeah.
always do it at the end because I always forget.
Thumbs up to the algorithm gods, please.
Yes. I'm gonna do this and pop this. So thank you. That we have a few of our Patreons on right now. So thank you guys, Helge and Ray, for coming to the chat. But everybody on this list is super important to us, and we appreciate all you guys do. Um, I'm gonna change it to my face again though, because that's kind of weird, just being a picture. Although we might get more or more people watching if I hide my face. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, it's just the same as we
Well,
take all the blind to the cinema to watch a mute movie.
Right? Descriptive video doesn't work sometimes. Are T2 box the only option? Uh, are there other boards in firmware? There are other boards in firmware. There's Nano SLP. You can actually, Creality hasn't released it yet, but they are going to package the Hallet system. But lots of them are part for part. So, like, if you have an Alpha Wise, you got to buy an Alpha Wise to replace it or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll be interesting. I think part of the limitation so far has been so the way they work is they actually have an LCD screen. Typically now they've moved to mono screens, so you've got this mono screen that is your mask that blocks the UV light from getting at your resin, and then it just exposes it. Well, the big limitation is you need a board to drive that screen, and the board to drive that screen up until recently there was licensing you had to pay and a few other things. So I think as the screen driving chips and whatnot cost comes down,
yep.
maybe licensing is included with that, and then people can learn how to program to those screens. You will see, I'm hoping, like the MKS and the Big Tree Techs of the world come out with their own systems to drive that because they're already familiar with screens and whatnot. So it wouldn't be a leap to be able to control a system like that. So
No. And again, right now, um, everything's locked together. The Hallet screen works with the Hallet controller, right? So you couldn't mix and match and get a G2 box to work with that screen. It's just that won't happen. But we're getting there. It's weird because it's one of the oldest forms of 3D printing, but it's actually the least developed commercially. You just
well,
plop this thing down and
I
away you
think
go.
now that they've kind of gone to those mono screens and whatnot, and who knows, maybe there's a way to get the cost down further with like e-ink type displays or
Yeah.
something. The key is to get a high resolution mask to allow, like, you think of the way 3D or the computer chips are made with lithology, and they it's basically that in reverse. You're stacking it up, right? You're exposing the resin in a specific pattern. So the finer the resolution, like and we're hearing 8K screens now. I think once it takes off, you will start to get the technology to the masses at a more reasonable price. But
Yep.
it'll take time.
Somebody's printer just finished. Or started. I'm not sure which one it is.
Or laundry finished.
That's true too. So we will have details upcoming on the website. I popped it in mine, but the restream thing might be covering it. I'm not sure, but
No,
it's
I can see it. I think they can read it.
3dmakeit.ca. So that will be popped up there. Remember, if you missed it, the general idea is some sort of holiday thing. Doesn't have to be Christmas necessarily, just whatever holiday-ish thing you want to print from any kind of
and
motif.
it's again, it's a tchotchke kind of small
Yep.
thing that you could display somewhere, whether you could hang it somewhere or just set it somewhere.
Yeah.
Some sort of small object. I don't know if we defined a size, but
No,
not too
we'll
big.
get the specifics when we
Yeah.
post it. But check Patreon. The public thing on Patreon will have it. Our website will have it. Discord will put it in both channels. If you guys are a member of Discord, remember there are 2 channels. One is a legacy before we actually put Patreon's Discord up. So there is a legacy channel. So if you are like following along, most of the stuff happens in the Patreon channel now. But we do pop in now and again and just say hello. But we will be we'll be announcing the contest stuff. I'd like to thank Raymond and Helge for joining us on the video
Thanks,
today.
gentlemen.
You guys have been fun. Oh, heart! I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm sure that we will talk soon. Look for the next Patreon live stream thing towards the end of this month, because technically this was October. So,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
had
we'll
a
probably
busy
be doing it
weekend
again.
going on last weekend, so.
I was going to reach out again to Amin, our material scientist friend, to have him back on to chat a little bit more now that some of the stuff with the PLA is changing, and he can explain kind of a little bit towards like not renewable but sustainable 3D printing. That's the word I'm looking for. Sustainable. So,
Yeah.
but until next time, I guess we'll see you all later. So thank you, Helge and Ray.
I do have a quick
Oh,
announcement.
Ray has a
though.
thing.
Okay.
And then Ray.
Okay.
So I've now got 99% of the parts for Hulk, and I will, after in about an hour or so, I'm gonna need some lunch. Do a live stream a little later. If you want to join me, you can. I will be starting the build, so it'll just be, I'll pop up a live stream when I can. If you want to join, you can. I will be starting to put it together. I do have one more thing that David has to print for me, which I forgot to put in our thing. So when he gets his garage put back together, I will get him to print that piece. And Raymond, you had something, I think. Did you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just put him on the spot. Ray, what did you want to say?
Sorry, I thought I interrupted him. I apologize.
Yes, Pierre.
Yeah.
Greg's doing that today, probably in like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Something like that. He'll pop up something. I may or may not be there, because fishing wires and stuff through the garage is really fun.
I don't really have my first stream set up for guests.
I'm not going to be there because Greg's a jerkhead.
But you can definitely come into chat, and I'll chat with you.
There you go. There it is. All right, guys.
Then it won't interrupt your cleaning of your garage.
My cleaning the garage. I like it. But we appreciate y'all for coming. And look for some exciting videos this afternoon. See you guys.
Bye.